I'm taking care of me.
I'm taking care of you.
I'm taking care of you. Taking care, that's what you do. I'm taking care of me.
I'm taking care of me.
I'm taking care of you.
I'm taking care of you.
Taking care, that's what you do. Taking care of each other.
Taking care of one another. Taking care, that's what you do. That's what you do too. So join us now, so we can share with you. So we can share with you.
Welcome to Taking Care. I'm Paul Antokolsky.
And I'm Leslie Ahern and Paul. I'm so glad that you could join us today, and I'm so glad it stopped raining.
For now.
For now. Well, that's great.
I don't know. I tried to get Noah's email. I wasn't taking any chances. Our program is about caregivers and seniors and all of those who care about them. And one way that caregivers can help themselves out is by looking at the National Family Caregivers Association, the largest grassroots organization of family caregivers in the country. And you can find out about them online at thefamilycaregiver.org, or you can give them a call at 800-896-3650. You can get information. You can join right there. And membership is free to all family caregivers.
That's
Another
right.
thing you can do to help yourself out as a family caregiver is to call my lovely spouse, Leslie, because Leslie is part of the Family Caregivers Alliance.
That's right.
And it is part of a network nationwide of family care advisors, free and confidential, courtesy of your federal tax dollars. So if you have any questions or issues, if you need help or just want to plan for the future, give Leslie a call at 617-477-6676.
Well, and what's really good about the National Caregiver Support Program is that, one, it's free because, caregivers need all the resources they can get, and also that it's not means tested. It doesn't go by income. So you're really free to either call me up or invite me into your home without just talking about what it is and what you'd like some support around, and planning for the future. Everybody needs a plan B, and that certainly is true when it comes to caregiving. And and to mention, in Boston, if you are part of a family that English is not your first language, we have care advisors that speak Russian, and we have others that speak Haitian Creole, Spanish, Vietnamese, and I think, and I speak English most of the time. So I hope that you do give me a call with questions. We have support groups that are happening, and as I said, this is free, and it's free because you paid it through your federal taxes.
Although if you don't happen to pay any taxes this year, that's okay too.
Yes, I don't ask about taxes, no. All right, well, we have a really special show today, and I'm glad that you're here because we have two brothers, the DiRado brothers, who we'd like to introduce to you, who have gone on their own caregiving journey with their dad. And I happen to have known one of the brothers we've known him for over 10 years. And
since you're in your 20s.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, dear. I don't know what he wants, but he'll get it. And kind of went through and talked, but they have really put something together through photographs because Chris's brother, Steve, is a photographer. He's actually a professor in photography and an artist. And you're going to share some of that. And I think it's a nice way, because often when you hear, someone's someone's parent, passed away and had Alzheimer's, it's like, oh, that's going to be sad or down or whatever. But, part of getting through it can be through the eyes of an artist. And
Well, now, Chris is no slouch either.
well, no, he's an artist too. Just look at our website, takingcare.tv, and you'll see that all that's him. That's not us.
I wondered why so many pictures of him was on our website.
All right, I think it's time to introduce the DiRado brothers. And to your immediate, well, you better do this. I never can get that.
On the left side of your screen is the just maligned Chris DiRado.
Oh, no.
And on the right side of your screen is his not yet maligned brother, Steve.
There we go. Welcome to Taking Care.
Thank you so much. It's an honor.
Great to be here.
All right, so you've brought some things to share, and in fact, part of that is going together into a book that is called With Dad, and you're going to see some of the lovely photographs that are in that. So let's start about your journey.
Okay. My involvement, Stephen's involvement started a lot longer than mine, but we did bring some clips today showing me documenting my brother, the photographer who's documenting my father with Alzheimer's. My father had Alzheimer's for almost 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Of which the last 5 years he was residing in a nursing home. So I would follow my brother around, me with a video camera, and my brother with the big still camera.
Pedestal, 8x10 huge negative, big plates to go in, dark cloth over the head.
Oh, boy.
So, no easy task.
So should we watch that video? Let's
That was
Yeah.
a great
cue
way to
that
start.
up.
Give
and,
people a sense of
great.
what we're doing. Yeah. So what do you hope to accomplish today?
You know, it's like every week. It's just you go with an empty head and you see what fills it up. The darkness, because of the rain, limits me to some ideas that might come about when I walk in there, but it opens up other ideas. Long exposures, rain on the window.
How many photos do you think you've taken of him so far in the nursing home?
About 1,500, 1,800 images in the nursing home alone. Morning. Oh, probably a lot more than that. Probably around 3,000 because using the smaller camera. Then you could add all the years before that. What are you doing? Can I touch? Let me touch. Let me touch you. I don't know, I'm going to say around 10,000 photos or so.
You're being filmed, you're being photographed. You're like the most famous person on this earth.
I'm probably getting maybe 1 out of 20, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 30 that are decent enough for somebody to take note of.
So like once every 3 weeks you may get a real good one.
I think one that's actually probably right on the money. 1 every 3 weeks I get really, yeah, you're right, one good one. And you know, what is it's good in this case means something that somebody else who's never been through this can relate to on some level.
Yeah.
That it's not esoteric, it's not, oh yeah, I've been there, I know what he's going through. That's not the point. The point is for somebody who's never gone through any of this before to look at this photo and really feel the emotions and be attracted to this image in a way that they're learning something about themselves and about other people that they can somehow relate to in their lives.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so literally we've begun that journey. What kind of camera is that?
It's a what they call a large format camera, and it takes
Yeah.
single negatives that are 8 inches by 10 inches big.
Wow.
Nobody uses them anymore, but it slows me down and really makes me think about the kind of photo that I want to put together. And also it's a spectacle. The fact is that I'm walking into this nursing home week after week, is that I became the artist in residence very quickly. And I think in part, I'm a bit of a handball, but more likely it's the camera and the whole festivity around it. That people watch me think about something, frame the shot, talk to my father, look at the light, and then eventually bring the camera, you saw in that short video, bring the camera into place, look on it, disappear underneath the dark cloth, and see my father upside down in reverse. It's a little magic room underneath there. And I can separate myself from the environment and just think about the moment. And then reappear, put a sheet of film in, and then again connect to my father, and then click, there's the photo. And you heard, there's this magic about it, but the reality is 1 out of 100 actually transcend. That becomes something that all can relate to. So, is it therapy? You bet it is. It's therapy in a huge way, and that goes way back from the very beginnings that there was something wrong with Dad. Right up to the very end, which was essential to connect to Dad. That it was the only way at that point. It was the camera that sometimes he would wake up and look forever at the camera, and I had to go, hello, I'm here too. And but the camera was really a connection right up to the very, very end.
Wow. And so, and you are also doing the video of this process.
Right, yeah. We thought it would be interesting in the last couple of years for me to just follow my brother around like a puppy dog and just kind of ask him what he's doing and why is he doing it and kind of interview him. So in the clip you saw I was interviewing him in the car, and I've got a couple more clips of me asking him more questions and what did you feel about this shot and that shot. It's very interesting to watch him work, and it's also important to point out how people react to my brother. And he just fits right in. He just blends in with whatever environment. Now he's got a very big, camera that he's slung over his shoulder and things like that. But he blends in. He doesn't really draw that much attention. He's on a very intellectual level, I think.
Now, were you sleeping there? Because there was like
that was a moment that
resting.
It was this is tough. The bed was our father's bed. And at one point, I just sat on it and then laid down on it. And I said to you, is this the spot where he's going to leave this earth? Wow. It's pretty intense. And I just wanted to feel it. I wanted to see what that bed was all about. And it actually was the bed that he lost. He left this earth in that exact room. So it was a very poignant moment. I got to back up. Can I back up a little bit?
Can we start
allowed to do this?
You gonna make a beeping sound?
No, but I gotta say, and I think this is really important, and probably more important than almost anything else we're talking about, and the relationship with my loving brother, is that, I made it my job day one, and I would always say, Dad, I'm your loving son. He made me, our father was an artist, an amazing artist, by the way, worked for the state of Massachusetts, did these great illustrations that you saw in the Boston Globe and all the papers about what a new highway was going to look like or a new DPW building was going to look like. So he trained us to be the best people we can be at a very young age. He's an amazing father. And so when he became sick, or something was wrong with him, I decided to be a soldier and follow whatever happens no matter what. So when he went to the nursing home, of course there's this well, do I have to go see him today? Do I have to see him tomorrow? And that's very normal. Even the nurses the first week that I was there said, oh, you're not going to be back next month. Nobody comes back after a few weeks. People live in the past and you don't live in the present. I said, no, I'm a soldier. I'm going to come and see my father and I'm going to photograph him. I'm going to do that once or twice a week. And so for years, Chris, living nearby, and I only lived 18 minutes away, living in Worcester and coming to Marlborough, is that I would call Chris and I said, look, I'm going to be there at 2:05 Saturday afternoon. He said, I'll be there at 2:06 on a Saturday afternoon. And you would look at the watch and say, okay, we've been here long enough. It's time to go home. I says, no, the light's not right. There's something different. Look, Dad is listening to the music. Look how he's perching a certain way. So a few years of this kind of struggle for you, and I made photos about that too, about family members, my mother, my sister, my brother, and their struggle, is that I had this video camera that I didn't use. It was bought for a project that never came about. We all think that we're going to do 9 things a day, and we don't. We do, if we're lucky, 1, we're in good shape, right? So I decided that to retire the digital video camera, and I said to Chris, who was heading in that direction with his business, take this camera and photograph us, photograph Dad. And you said, why would I want to do that? And I said, because you have to. And the thing is that he came.
Big brother.
Yeah, big brother. And he came the very first time to the nursing home, and I could see him instantly take control over that. And see, it was that whole thing, the dark cloth, that he was looking in the viewer, and he was able to separate just enough about this process. And within weeks, that film that we just saw was made really the first month that you pick up that camera.
Yeah, that was the very first
one. And the thing is that very shortly after that, he's buying all these extensions for it, new microphones. He's, I think I need a reverse shot here. And I'm like, he's buzzing around me while I'm just doing my little thing like this and looking at that. And I'll hear, bro, stay still. I want to do a reverse shot on this. And so I got to tell you, I was the tears over that. And the thing is that he was no longer there at 2:06 when I arrived at 2:05, but he would be there at 1:30 when I arrive at 2:05, setting up and thinking about. And
to get him coming out of the car.
Yeah, getting me coming out of the car.
Don't look at the camera.
Yeah, don't look at the camera. So, but I was very moved by that and very touched about the next couple. It was only a year.
Up to almost
2 years that you made a series of films.
Yeah, and that's really wonderful because sometimes, I mean, as people, go through, and there's a sense that with memory loss and dementia that, you're losing a piece of the father that you obviously loved and admired each time, and that's it. The person is still there, but the essence that's part of they would share is fading away.
Right.
However, it certainly sounds like for you two to be able to bond is
it brought us together.
Right,
really
because
did.
a lot of families, that's not what happens.
No.
People are grieving, and with that kind of illness, people kind of grieve while the person's still there. And it's great that you found a way, both to be together.
And we should extend it to also our sister, Gina, the middle one.
Oh,
the
okay.
baby brother, I'm
There's
the
another
elder, and Gina, all three of us bonded. We were always, there was never a time we were not close, but it really brought us close. And it was really very exciting for all of us to show up and to be around him together and to have him hear our voices. That was very clear that never lost him, that he might be in a fog or someplace between here and wherever that is. And when we would be in the room talking and laughing and doing our, making our art, that he was very much partaking in that. It might take a little while. And those last couple of years, he really wasn't talking, and he was kind of in and out of it. But there would be a moment of enlightenment, that just something extra was happening. And
he seemed to understand what we were doing.
Yeah.
It's important to point out my father was an artist by trade.
Yes.
And he was a photographer as well. So at certain moments, we felt like he really understood what we were doing and why we were doing it, and getting into the art part of the process.
Wow,
Right, you were able to take the situation and make it something larger, where the three of you were collaborating on a creative project. And something that, as you say, your father very much was tuned to.
Yes.
And so it wasn't just, hi, we're visiting you, we're going to take some snapshots, but this is something that the three of us are doing. And as time went on, it got to be something of significant scale.
I got to tell you that it came to be within a short period of time that I sensed this home that he was in. I had a real feel about it, and I fell in love with everybody, the other staff, the nurses, the other residents that were there, and it was everything in my power was not to turn my camera in on them. I kept reminding myself.
I wondered about that.
Yeah, no, I kept reminding myself. I kept saying, "It's about Dad. It's about Dad." In the early stages of this, it was called Dad with Alzheimer's, which was very impersonal. It was a working title, and within the last year, I changed it to, actually, thanks to a very dear friend. Believe me, when I went to the nursing home, or when I photographed my father, so didn't 60 of our family members do this, and about 300 of my dearest friends. It's like we're all going for this ride, because if you're connected to my life, you got to put up with this stuff. Because I photographed many things outside of the home, as nursing home as well. But I really had a collective sense, and I was always a student and always learning. Our father taught us. He's still teaching us. Let's put it that way. And it never ever disappeared. It always was there for something. The signs were there to pick up incredible things, to look at, to document, And again, and the best of my photos, and again, they came far and wide, transcend that I hope is somewhat universal. It really is. Look, I'm going to tell you, it's not an easy project. I talk to students at a college level, and they relate to their grandparents or their great-grandparents. But I talk to my age group, 50-something-year-olds, and they don't want to know about it. It's not an easy, and I don't want to say I'm not selling this, but I'm very compassionate about it. And I would think as an artist that other people would come up on that level. But you know, another thing, can I keep just talking like this? Is this okay? Do you have a question?
Well,
Absolutely.
sure
There's actually the show ended 10 minutes
Yeah, I was
ago.
going to say, you know, that's what happens when I start
And I want
going
to
on
make sure we
things.
see the video.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, we have actually stills that we need to do.
Another clip.
I'm
Okay.
going to hyperventilate in a second, and we can. All right, but the thing
What
is,
is, okay.
well, it was just there was one other, and I think it was, I'm even losing the thought, was that you mentioned earlier about people disappearing, and we talked about them saying you never come back and do this. You know, I started to talk to other families that walked in with their loved ones, and they would say, "Oh, Dad, would you like a coffee? You always had it with cream and sugar." And I would say to them, "Stop that! Come over here right now." And like, "What are we doing wrong?" I said, "You're going back to the past tense. No, your dad, your parent, your grandparent, your second cousin, it's in the now. What do you see about them right now in this room?" I noticed that they're really interested in that window and the way the sun's coming in. Why don't you bring them over to that window, walk them or wheel them over, and experience that right then and there and now? And you'll come a lot longer if you do that. And that actually helped. And
Rather
a
than
lot-
just sitting there
and you
staring at
see
them,
the
not knowing what to
pain.
do.
You see the pain
Yeah.
because they're going into the past tense, and it's not. It's about the now, and you live the day for what it is, for better or for worse.
Right, because indeed, in that way, you're sharing the experience
Yeah,
for
yeah.
people with advanced dementia,
Yeah,
memory
yeah.
loss. All there is today, the moment, what's in front
Yeah.
of them.
And you know that's incredible.
True.
That's an incredible thing.
And the way to make the adjustment with the loved one who has Alzheimer's and it's becoming quite progressed is you have to be the one to make the adjustments.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yes.
if your father is not the vivacious, active, witty person he used to be, well, don't think about that and reminisce. You know, deal with what you still have. There's still a person there.
Yeah,
True.
absolutely.
That's true.
Let's get to the video,
Okay.
because we want to make sure we
Yeah, yeah.
get the whole story in. So,
The second clip is basically an extension of the first clip.
Okay.
It's a segment in time, if you would, of just me following my brother around and asking
Great.
him what he's doing and show you my brother in action.
okay, let's do it.
You're gonna have your picture taken, Jane?
Put me
Huh?
on the other.
You're gonna look at
book with
Stephen
the
so he can
pretty
take your
girls.
picture?
But that-
That hand right there that you're just holding flat. And I think just with one hand.
Just like
Yeah,
that?
like that, with that.
Like-
Or how, whatever.
I'm
yeah,
trying to
actually,
see
that's
whatever's
fine.
comfortable.
Actually, that's good, pulling his fingers apart.
Yeah.
Sorry, but both, you can do both. And let me take a look at that. Sun's coming back out.
Maybe you'll be next.
Stay still. And have that finger come, oh, there you go, like that, we're just pulling apart that. Good, stay still, 1, 2, stay very still, 1, 2, good.
You
Okay.
move.
We'll do one more, we'll do another.
Don't move.
Now wait for the exhale, and now wait for the inhale. And also wait for this little bit of sun to come back out. I know, isn't it funny? The only clouds in the area
Right.
now. We gotta really wait for that. Okay, stay still. 1, 2, and... Good, that was good, that was excellent.
Good, you did good job, G. Very good.
Somehow it's off the station.
You want me to hold it?
Yeah, see how it's just hitting Mom like that? Just hitting her face from the side. Just a little bit. So if you can grab that and just have it just gotta get just
Yeah, I
go,
see
just
it.
do that. Good. Just gotta highlight over it. So you can actually use the umbrella to give you, got it? Good, and then just have it hit her face. I'm bring it again. Come a little bit more over here. See, it's gonna pick up a little more.
Oh, okay.
There it is.
There it is. Perfect. All right, 60 down. 62, perfect. And, hey Mom, just looking right at the camera. There you go. Stay very still. 1, 2, and good. We're done. That's it.
It's like taking x-rays.
Isn't it something? Good. That's it.
Yeah, turn up the volume.
It's a long road, huh?
Metaphorically about Dad, or the road going to Marlboro?
Yeah,
It's a really long road for Dad, that's for sure.
and for us.
Yeah, you know, who's it easier for? Dad's going to be 82 in August. I think he's going to make it. Whatever that is, making it.
Yeah. Wow. That was my mother in the.
Yes.
Our mother in the picture.
We
Yeah,
sent it to
that's
Florida
great.
every winter. She much closer to Dad than us, so her blood pressure would be. I don't know if there's a scale for what her blood pressure was by the fall. So come October, she would go to Florida, and we would call her every week. We would send her the photo.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
We would take shifts taking care of my father too, also when he was home.
Yeah. Oh, before
Well,
that.
I do remember before you went in a nursing home, and you came up with some very creative ways because you really went through a lot to sort of keep him safely at home.
That's right.
And I've actually shared that with other caregivers.
Yeah,
You came up with some interesting ideas.
We try to keep him home as long as possible. And I set up cameras in the house so that my mother could monitor where he was in the house and then make sure he was being safe and staying out of trouble and so forth. And we didn't want my mother to bear the whole burden, so we would take shifts, send her off and do things. My sister Gina would come to the house and I would leave. And my brother would come to the house, we would leave. We'd all take shifts to make sure that no one person in the family was overly stressed and trying to take care of him.
That's tremendous. That is tremendous. That is a balancing act that is so needed, but so hard to sort out in the middle of.
I can't imagine any one caregiver doing it alone. You really need the family support structure in
Well,
place.
I know I share that with folks all the time, but many times people feel like, oh no, I can do it, and it's not fair to the person. It's not fair to you.
They shouldn't. They really should get help.
Yeah.
Family, friends, professional. We actually had professional help come into the house as well.
Good.
For showering and things of that nature, nursing and so forth. So we kept him home for as long as possible, but then eventually it became too much and ended up with the nursing home.
Right. And sometimes that's the best and safest way, and obviously, as you say, you were there all the time, so that's great.
So your suggestion is that people should have a half a dozen children so that
Wait
the
a
burden
minute.
is
That
spread
is
around.
one of the ways. That is one of the ways.
Well, I don't know.
At least a half a dozen.
Unfortunately, sometimes it works the other ways, and its siblings can, disagreements when they were 8, 10, and 11 come up again as they're dealing with all these
Right.
emotions. So,
And you've got cousins, you have friends, your loved one very likely has friendships that go back decades. There are neighbors who might have developed an emotional investment over the years. So even if you don't have the luxury of having several siblings, you should always take whatever courage it takes to see if you can put together a network of people so that you're not going it alone. That is much too much of a stress.
Right.
And you wind up needing more care than the person you're caring for.
right, even if it's folks that you can pick up the telephone. One of the things that, working with caregivers like I do, it's sort of like there's some level of knowing that unless you've been there with a loved one as a caregiver, you don't know. But the people that come to a support group say, well, I know that these people really understand and feel what I'm feeling, and I don't feel alone when I'm here.
Very important.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's so. So what else do we have?
We have slides of my brother's
I would
photos.
love to see that.
Maybe we can.
We can go right to them, and well, I don't know if they're going to come up in the order, and we could just talk briefly about some of them. But
Great.
here we go.
Great.
Here's the
Great.
lovebirds. We think maybe on Nantasket Beach in probably 1955 or 56.
Oh, these
So
are. Oh,
their lives ahead of them, and children coming up in the future. The next one. And this is in 1993 and 94, and this is on Martha's Vineyard. We're vacationing. Our parents love the beach. It wasn't unusual in the 60s to get a tap on the head at 5:30 in the morning to get in the car and head off to the beach for a very long day. And so here I am not many years ago in the 90s with me in return treating them to the beach for a couple of days, and then including myself as a self-portrait with my mother and father. Next one. And this is our father's dog, Missy, who he just loved and adored. And this is in our father's backyard, and he had a topiary. He had all of these trees and shrubs, and he would, again, he was a perfectionist. So if he wasn't painting or drawing something at work for all to see, he would go home and he would meditate in his backyard with hand clippers, not electric clippers, and he would clip these shrubs, and leaving the clippings for his children to rake up, by the way.
There you go.
Next one. It's a loving photo. If something's wrong, I'm not dealing well with it. I'm thinking it's depression, it's just him retiring. And so I included myself in a lot of these photos. And that's what you're seeing there.
So this was before it was really clear.
He was
what
not
was going
diagnosed
on.
at this point, but there was
Right.
something a little distant in him that worried
Right.
all of us. And again, I'm one for running into the flame instead of running away. So that I was hugging him and caressing him and photographing him a lot during this time period to cope. The photo doesn't move. So the thing is that when you're there, you're kind of in a frenzy and you're kind of ignoring things, looking around and making excuses for why he forgot something. But when I would make the photo, I'd take the photo and look at it, and I would think about it, and it would solidify that something's up, and we need to engage in this and not let it slip, but to really become more active around him to cover for things that seem amiss. Next one. Mom and Dad in Florida. He would go down with her, and these days were not. He might have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's at this point. I think he is. And there was a period in the stages of Alzheimer's that he became very exact in his routine during the day. Get up at a certain time, eat at a certain time. My mother was very pleased by this because it was very systematic. There was no surprises. It was a very interesting time period. Of course, he wasn't the fully, robust dad that we know, but there was a simplicity, almost a Zen level at this point that she's grown to accept and kid about. And for us children to also, it was a calm time before things became more jumbled.
He was on Aricept around this
That's
time
right,
period,
yes,
too,
yes.
Leslie.
Okay.
So.
But she said he had vivid dreams all the time. Next one. Here you have it. The two boys right here, both sides of our father in
I love
Florida.
this photograph. I just love this photograph.
The Patriarch Center and the two boys left and right, peeking in. And he's again, this is again when he was diagnosed with the Alzheimer's, but he knew that he was dad, that he was the center of the family. There was no doubt. That did not detach itself in any way. So I look at this photo and I'm very proud of it because I could still see the patriarch that we just talked about. Next
Oh,
one.
sure.
Is it the disease? Is it just aging? Is just how the cards are dealt? But he kept having these strokes over a period of years.
Oh.
And this was what we called, the big one?
This was the big one.
This was the big one.
Yeah, he could no longer identify a banana, an orange, association with items.
Counting to 10. How dare you ask me to count to 10? But Dad, just do it. Oh, don't be silly. And he'd count up to 7 and say, I'm not doing this anymore, and stop. So again, ways of just kind of tucking that underneath. Actually, again, this is a self-portrait where I'm there with him, but I'm grappling with a sandwich. But I'm also grappling with what's happening to him. So when I do include myself, it's again it's not literal. There's something else there going on symbolically in these photos. And it's a wonderful portrait of him. He's actually again paying attention to the camera.
Yeah.
Again, I'm behind it. I'm the other side of the room. I'm triggering it with a little wire. Next one. back in Florida, and then again, I'm because I have a long history of thanks to my father making art and using the symbols of art, letting him here with car headlights, and it's kind of the spooky light. It's something's not quite right, and so here he is at the door of their summer house, and again, just feeling a little unnerved, and so this photo is playing off of that. Next one. Oh, this is the story. This is the story. This is that while we were caretaking, and Chris just said earlier, he would cover, we would tell our mother, go away, go stay at your sister's house, go have a good time. And Chris would cover for one weekend, Gina, our sister, would cover for another weekend. I'd come in for the weekend, and I would arrive on a Friday and leave on a Sunday night or a Monday morning, and I'd arrive to cook for Dad, provide for Dad, take him out for nice walks and rides. But there was a period of time there he kept going to the bathroom frequent. I mean, we're talking once an hour. And I wouldn't hear the toilet flush, or I wouldn't hear the water run. And he would be in there for a while, 10, sometimes 20 minutes. He'd come back out, he'd sit down next to me and say, Dad, is everything okay? And he's like, oh no, things are fine. I said, well, Dad, you know what I do. I'm going to come in with you with the camera next time you go into the bathroom. So my poor family, all my ex. So he's like, fine. Sure enough, an hour later, he gets up. I go in with the beast you just saw in the video, walk in the bathroom. He walks right up to the mirror, and he's looking at it. And I thought, okay, maybe this is a vanity thing. Maybe there's one hair that's out of place, or there's something that... I said, Dad, I'm going to photograph you looking in the mirror. Okay, very simple. This is that period that we talked about. It was kind of the Zen thing going on with him. So I'm like, okay, Dad, camera's focused on you in the mirror in the back of your head. And you know the deal, Dad. On the count of 3, like you saw in the video, stay very relaxed and look in the mirror. Here we go, Dad. 1, 2, and on 2 he turned, and he looked at the camera and he smiled. And I said, no, you have it all wrong. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, you got to be looking in the mirror. And he says, the man in the mirror is looking at you.
Oh, wow.
And there was this moment. It was the decisive moment for me as my father's son, as an artist, and as a storyteller for others. Is this where we shut the camera down? Has this become just an immediate family story and nobody else's business? Or is this something that now I have to jump and continue? So, and it was like door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. Number 1 was, do I cry? And so none of that was going to work for me. It was do the job. So I said to our father, Dad, what do we think about the man in the mirror? And he said, he's a good man. And I looked in the mirror and I looked back at my father and I said, he's a wonderful man. And we should both look at that good and wonderful man, and we'll make a photo of the back of your head. And I physically grabbed him, and we'll both look at the man in the mirror. And this is the photo that you see. So yeah, it's a tough one.
And that's really just a quick, that's a way that you very quickly learn to adapt, because sometimes when you have that moment, you say, no, I'm looking at the man in the mirror, but that's you, Dad, but that's you, where people struggle to, and rather than joining in the experience and saying, and that was great. What do you think of the man in the mirror?
What do you think about the man in the mirror? It was the way to go. It was not retracting in any way. It wasn't going to bring back that other thing. So let's work with the present and move on into the future.
Work with the present.
So, yeah, work with the present. Next one.
That was a lot better than just look in the mirror so I can take the picture.
I can use a few choice words about that.
I dragged this camera all the way in
all the
there.
way. Yeah, I got this hunchback. He's actually in the nursing home at this point, and it's probably one of the last times that I had an instant recognition of camera and me near it or behind it. It was a very special point, again, in my transference of working in the nursing home. And he's our father, and here he is, all beautifully lit, and the lines of his face, and my brother and I, we look a lot. There's parts that are there, and so it was again another very touching moment to make this photo. Next one. Oh, identity, right? Titles, names, Gene A. DiRado. And here is his world. So this is, again, walking into the activities room. And actually, that's my wife, Donna, on the left-hand side that you just see kind of peeking into the frame. And again, I made it clear that this would always be about with Dad, and that anybody else in the image would be out of focus or somewhat out of focus, unless if it's a family member. So again, the clarity is on the name, the wheelchair, which he succumbed to fairly quick when he was in the nursing home, unsteady feet and whatever falling down. and then photographing that kind of complexity. Next one. It's a lot of self-portraits here. You're seeing the artist and his camera by way of shadows. And you're seeing the identity of Gene A. DiRado on the right-hand side, Dad central, and my shadow cast across the room. And this is, again, the fact that I work so slow. And then when I was opening the shades and I just cracked them, I noticed that my shadow was cast. And I thought, okay, this is meant to be. And also, and a metaphor in some ways is that I become flat. I'm no longer a three-dimensional person, but I'm this kind of, so again, all of those things were brought into these frames.
Neat.
Yeah, next one.
Very nice.
You know, these strokes kept coming, small or large, and he would be scurried off to the hospital for observations and for tests, and thank God none of them debilitated him in any a hastily way. And here's my mother looking on at him, and he's smiling, and he actually hit his head when he fell. So that's what that little scar is, a little scab on his head. Next one. And you know, we all want to talk to our parents. We all want to whisper in their ears. And it's also what I call very celestial. One of my loves is astronomy. But there's a lot of math involved in it, and astronomers really don't look at the stars, so I quickly lost interest. But I do watch the phases of the moon. And this was a moment where I felt that Dad was in a waning stage, that he was turning away. And what was appearing was the all-telling ear that I could whisper into and tell secrets. And so this is again a metaphor, an image that I made with the face out of focus, but the ear in sharp focus. Next one. Our sister's hand. It's such a strange disease in the sense that my sister calls out to my father and puts her hand forward. Dad, touch my hand. And for the life of him, he couldn't. He was smiling. He would giggle. He would say a few words, but he couldn't understand to reach out and touch the hand. So there you have the hand there and him looking on. And next one. It's the feeding frenzy. It's the feeding frenzy. It's the length. And you know, look, don't forget about this. It's a very social engagement that takes place in these assistant or nursing home facilities, and it's a lot of fun. And you make new friends. And there's my mother and my father and the lady on the right-hand side with her mother, and we made so many great friends there. We really did, and we're in touch with a number of them still. To this day, oh, yes, the dog. And there is. You're going to end this, I think, if we have time. This show with there's a little cameo of our dog on the lower left-hand side, and you know what? Bring your animals to any assisted living, any facilities. They are heroes. People love animals, right?
Yes.
So our Frankie would just be as proud as can be in this environment and be a real, very, very playful figure in these shots.
Well, we certainly have seen that. Sometimes there are people that don't respond to much else, but you bring an animal in, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, it really is. It really does. Really enlighten everybody in the room.
Yeah.
And these kinds of dogs never get a Jack Russell Terrier. I won the world. Jack Russell Terriers are out of their minds. They're smarter than all of us put together and then some. They'll unlock the cage. They'll figure out how to get out of there. And he knew that he was going to be the recipient of a lot of crumbs on those floors from room to room when he was visiting. So total ham. I don't know. Do I have others? I think there is. There's a couple more. I don't know if you want to cut back to another film.
Yeah, no.
But another one? You know, birthdays happen everywhere, and that's what this is. It's just another birthday. And I think it was 78th. I think this is the 78th birthday that you see here.
Oh, okay.
And it is our sister there on the right-hand side, and of course, Mom. Next one, you know, it's a normal life, as it really is. Everything about it is just, there's our brother before the days of film. This is what our brother looked like some days.
Before taking the video
Okay,
camera.
Steve, let's leave now. Okay, Steve, let's leave now. Okay, Steve, let's leave now. So here's our brother.
Not as engaged with the video camera. Right?
Next one. And there's the three kids, a few days before Christmas a few years back. And we're there chit-chatting in the hallway, and our father, again, illuminated by sunlight. Very low sunlight that time of year, right? So it's also a hint of the season. I'm astronomy and seasons. I love the way things are timed. And so, again, the sun coming through that way. And also the hallway is a nice metaphor to be in that hallway. Next one. This is what replaces conversation in the advanced stages, and I can't stress how important this is. touching. You've heard about it. It is so true. To caress, to touch, to hug. It is such a great exchange of information that happens with a loving one or a caretaker and a person that's in this situation.
Right, and it can be very simple. It can be something like some nice hand cream and
Yes.
doing a nice
Yes.
little hand
Right.
massage or brushing someone's hair.
all of that.
All of
All
that.
You might not get a response from them, but they feel
Oh, well,
Oh, yeah.
I think, yeah, he would push into, oh, no, there was, I don't think there was ever a time, I remember him pushing me away a couple of times because I was being a little rough. But yeah, no, I think there always is some kind of response that comes with that. Next one. And this is my father's sister to our left, Betty was a few years older than Dad, and our sister, his daughter, to the right. So a number of generations that are touching. Speaking of touching, then we go into this picture where they're touching Dad. And he's sleeping. He did a lot of sleeping around us, but you could see him smile. You could see him motion to what was going on. Next one. Not a good day, and you know I'm not going to apologize, but I'm going to tell you that I captured everything, and that some days he had a tic. And so he would be in this restless motion back and forth. And all I did was leave the lens open for maybe about a half a second. So that what's happening is within a half second he's moving from one position to the next, one position to the next. Next one. A sunny spring day. The listening to birds and taking him outside and having him listen to a cardinal nearby. And he's smiling. He's listening away. That's not that long ago, to in advanced stages. And the heat, the sun on his face. Next one. There's that ear again a few years later. And this time the head is turned downward, but the ear is still there to whisper those words. Next one. Our mother's back. Actually, I think she just came back from Florida. This might even be the very first visit. There's always this moment where it's so cute, where she would dress up to go see Dad for the first time she's back.
Oh.
And so it was great. And then we were outside on a nice spring day.
We're always looking to see what kind of response we're going to get from my father when he sees my mother for the first time.
First time
She's
after
been
a
in
month.
Right,
Florida
wait
for the
for a
whole
while.
winter.
Yeah.
And
So, and it's
not much of a reaction.
No, well, that's not. It takes a while. It takes a while, but there's something that comes about. And then we go into routine. Then it's routine. Then she comes every week, every few days throughout the summer. And then there's always that painful point where she leaves again, where there's that long pause where she looks at him. And we know what that's about, wondering if this is going to be the
You can feel
last
the
time.
energy.
Yeah, and then we know that we have to kick into high tests after she leaves to really make sure that we let her know.
I
what's
often
going on.
wondered if he just can't express himself. He feels it, but because of the debilitating disease, he can't express it.
Right.
So you always assume that he can feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next one. The toys that one plays with. And so it's a still life, but he's in the left-hand side of the frame. And it's about, just tangible things that you can play with him, rattle around, touch. Next one. We're all babies if we live long enough. We become that child again. And so, again, finding this little doll that you see here on the table there, and him leaning forward, making that photo. Yeah.
Wow. Well, we're running down. Is there a final shot?
I think we could probably, maybe one more. Let's just go to one more.
Okay.
And there he is sleeping, a very peaceful
nice.
image that you see.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of these photographs are in the book.
It's a
with
prototype
Dad.
book. I will pursue over as long as it takes to see if I can get a publisher and possibly a couple of writers about what we just talked about, to put in words beyond the pictures, this process.
Photos are also on Stephen's website. It's
Which is
Right.
StephenDiRado.com with a PH. And we have a slide at the end for people
good.
to see.
All right. Well, let's get to that because do we have a slide so that
You can fast forward through the other pictures and, oh, there it is, okay.
and we can there it
Yeah,
is.
there it is, yeah.
Chris DiRado, Web Street 101, and StephenPHDiRado.com.
Right.
Great.
And Stephen has a segment on the website called With Dad, and they can see that portfolio.
And the films that you put together.
And the films are also on there, too.
Oh, wonderful! Isn't that great? Speaking of films, you also
laughing
have
now.
a great sense of humor, and we wanted to end with, now what's your dog's name?
Frankie.
Frankie. Talking about, I mean, this was serious and wonderful, and I think we want to thank you so much for sharing
I'll honor again,
that.
really.
And, but also, it's fun, and that's, introduce Frankie.
Go ahead, because you tell them how this...
He's your dog.
Oh, I'll do the dog. Okay, very, very quickly. Yes, unfortunately, he's my wife's dog. How about that? And I take him up for walks. And this dog literally likes to just all of a sudden roll on his back and be dragged around by the way of the harness. And you will see in this video, it's evidence that he actually, there's no abuse here, trust me, no animals got hurt. But the thing is, I've been going around filming him doing these crazy things, and Chris took the material, edited it, wrote the music for it, and played the music. So this is the one we're playing, right?
Stephen actually took the footage with
a little tiny
this camera.
point and shoot camera that makes little films.
That's
and
great.
and we edited it together, and I wrote and performed the song that's on it.
So you're still
right.
creating art together.
Yes.
we'll never let go
Let's
of that.
take a look at this wonderfully dynamic
Right, and I
dog.
think we're going to go out on this.
All
So we
right.
want to say have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
And until then, take care,
Right, and don't do what this dog's going to do.
unless it feels right.
Okay, Frank, do you want to go for a walk? You want to go for a walk? Come on, let's go for a walk. Hey. Hey, you goof. Hey, you goof. What are you doing? Huh? What are you doing? Frank, this isn't what I call a walk. This is what I call dragging Frankie. Huh? Going out for a drag?
Dragon Frankie. Dragon Frankie.
He could be walking, he could be running, play a game of tag. Frankie said, Frankie stayed.
Come on, let's go.
Frankie wants to drag.
Dragon Frankie.
Get the snow.
Dragon
Okay, here we go.
Frankie.
There we go. Here we go.
He could be walking, he could be running, play a game of Frankie said, Frankie stayed. Frankie wants to drag.
Dragon Frankie.
You don't even care.
Dragon Frankie.
Come on.
Could be walking, could be running, play a game of tag. Frankie said, Frankie stayed. Frankie wants to drag.
Dragon Frankie.
Frank, I think we're done. I think we're toast.